Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Learning Databases with Nick. So in this video I wanted to initially go over select statements, but I thought that select statements can be so complex and so complicated that I think we'll forego the complexity of a select statement and just go with table relationships and show the complexity of the select statement with that. So now that you know how to insert data into a database, you know how to remove data from a database, you know how to use where statements to choose when and where you want to remove data from a database. You also know how to create databases, create tables, alter tables, make different structures of tables associated with what data you need. I think we're going to continue with, in order to show select statements and table relationships, I think we're going to continue with the users, and I also think we're going to move into a blueprints idea, because blueprints are pretty complicated. So let's just say you own a manufacturing company, and in this manufacturing company, you want to manufacture some parts of some sort, okay? And you have a blueprint, and a blueprint is going to have different relationships. So for example, you have let's say you manufacture car parts, and you manufacture engines, you manufacture axles, you manufacture transmissions, okay? Those in themselves are completely separate. Like an engine is obviously not a transmission, but it's possible that somewhere in the engine there's a bolt somewhere that, maybe is a 3/4 inch, half-inch long bolt. And by the way, I'm not a mechanical engineer, and so if my descriptions of car parts are not the best, keep in mind it's more of a example. So you can post below that to correct me if I make a mistake in the actual car parts themselves. But let's say you have an engine and it requires a 3/8 inch bolt, and it's half-inch long. Well, that exact same bolt may be somewhere in the transmission. Let's say you need 10 of those in the engine and 5 of those in the transmission, right? Well, you wouldn't want to duplicate that data on both the engine blueprint and the transmission blueprint. You'd want to have a pointer saying 5 of these in one blueprint and 10 of these in another blueprint. And I think that'll become more clear once again what I'm saying in the rest of this video, but the idea is to not waste space. So whenever you define something, you want to point to it in a database using preferably an integer, and that way the definition of that object is not being duplicated over and over again. Like, let's just say, for example, a bolt has a lot of specifications. It has a length, a width, the type of metal it's used, how it was hardened, all these sort of definitions of that bolt. Well, you wouldn't want to include all those definitions of that bolt into every single row of the database that uses that data, right? So you create something like different types of relationships. And some of the relationships you can make, there's kind of 3 main relationships. There's a one-to-one, there's a one-to-many, and a many-to-many, okay? And you can always say a many-to-one, but that's sort of like a one-to-one, just a lot of times. So, okay, let's just kind of give you an example of what those are, okay? And we're going to start out using users, okay? Now, users, let's say in your manufacturing facility, you have different users, like you have just the guy who uses a machine to screw in a bolt on a specific part of an engine. When he logs in the day and makes his report for what he did, he doesn't need to see financial information about the company, right? So you want to give him only specific roles. So we're going to have a users type table that kind of defines what users can do inside your system. Okay, let's say you have a web application and it's like a business management tool, and you're showing different parts of the company. You want to store all your information into one database, and you want to have the application itself have access to all that data, but you only want to have users access specific parts of that data. How would you control that using database is essentially what we're getting at. And users types and users roles are the way we're going to get around that. Okay, so let's create that table first. So create table user types. Okay, we need to define that table. So every type is going to have an ID. It's integer, 11, primary key, auto incrementing, auto increment. Wow, increment not null. Okay. Also, each user type is going to have a name. So we'll say a name, varchar they're not very complex. They're not very long names, so we'll just have a length of 20 on display. And there we go. Oop, what did I mess up here? Oh, var chair. It needs to be var car. There you go. Show tables. You'll see we have our new table. We'll use the explain statement to see what that table looks like. Okay, there we go. Let's insert into user types. We'll say, say values. We're going to have a bunch of them here. Let's say we'll have an admin. We'll have just a basic user. And then we'll have, let's say, a manager, okay, and then the CEO, okay, the different user types. Not the most realistic, but just an example, okay. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I forgot the parentheses. There we go. So we'll see here. There we go. Once again, I'll mention I'm used to using a different set. I don't spend a whole lot of time in the terminal, so you'll see me make a few mistakes here, but here's an example of how to fix when you see an error. Okay, so let's see what that table looks like. Let's see what the data looks like. Table, select the star from user types. There we go. And you'll see we have an admin, a user, a manager, and a CEO, and it has an ID of 1. Now, let's look what our users look like. Select star from users. Okay, we're going to delete from users where ID equals 2, just to make some unique users. Say insert into users values. We're going to say Terry. Holden. If this name matches somebody else, it's purely coincidental. Don't sue me. Let's see, John Anderson. I guess I don't know. We'll say. Let's do it this way. First, last. We'll say Alex Mark, I guess, as a first name, as a last name, that's fine. And then we'll say select star from users. And we'll see each user has a name and a last name. Now we need to tie that to the user types of some sort. So we need to match an ID of some sort. Now what we could do, let's just say that both Mike Smith and Terry Holden are both admins. Well, we could just have another field and have what type they are. So we could say, just as an example, one, I think I'm doing here, Mike, right, and then Smith. And it could look something like this in admin. And the next row says admin as well. But the problem with that is now you're spending this much space. What if admin becomes administrator? Administrator. Then you would have to. I'm not an English major, in case it's not obvious. And then you would have to duplicate the data, that update. You'd have to say update tables. It'd be complicated, right? Wouldn't it be easier if you just had an ID that pointed to a name? So when the name changed, you wouldn't have to update every single row in the users table. And you do that with an ID. So we'll do it this way. We'll say alter table users, add column, type ID. We'll define that by integer 11. And we'll say that not null default of 2, because 2 is user, right? Default of 2. There we go. So we'll select star from users. Now every person in the users table is just a basic user. So select star from user types. You'll see how this number 2 ties back to the user. So we only have to change it one place in the database. And this is kind of a simple explanation, so simple example. So in this example, it does feel a little bit like you're doing a little bit of extra work. But in a really complex database, this is extremely useful. Also, when querying, this is the really important part here is when querying, computers have a much easier time matching a number with a number than a string or a set of characters with a set of characters. It's much, much, much faster to store numbers and matching them. So keep that in mind. And I'll show you joining later on, which will explain why it's really important. Okay, so you see kind of the relationship, how you have one table that's relating to another table. Now, what if you had roles? So let's just say, some users could see some parts of it. Well, let's update the users real quick and give them some unique types real quick. Update users set type ID equal to 1, where ID equals 1. Let's see, update type ID equal to 3, where ID equals 4. We'll select star from users. Now you'll see that we have, oh, did I mess that last one up? Oh yeah, because I inserted earlier, so there we go. So now you'll see we have 2 normal users, a manager, and an administrator. So administrator might be like a programmatic administrator. Like my job, for example, at my job, we have customers who we sell our software to, and they have managers. Those managers are not programmers, so the roles I have with the application are going to be different than the manager's roles because I'm looking at it from a programmatic standpoint, and the manager's looking at it from a managerial standpoint. Anyway, so you might want to have that distinction. That's why that might be confusing at first why there's an admin and a manager, but that's why we will go across that, because admin generally is a programmatic admin, and manager is a manager of a business. They're different. Okay, so now we have different user roles, different types. And back to what I was saying a minute ago with the relationship of roles. So let's just say users can only see the first page and the second page, right? Well, that means that they have 2 different roles. Well, what you could do is you could add another column, and you could say role 1, role 2, role 3, role 4, and maybe 3 or 4 of those roles would be empty. But then you're kind of wasting data, right? So you want to have what's called a many-to-many table. So you could say we need to have roles themselves. So create table roles. It's going to have an ID. Well, actually, this is a many-to-many, so it's not. It's going to have a user ID, and then hold on. Oh, it is. That's right. Roles, integer. I got confused here for a second. 11. Primary key auto increment. Not null, and it's also going to have a name of some sort, so varchar 20 again, and then there we go. And then we need to have a users roles table. So create users roles table, and this is, wow, what is going on with my keyboard? Usually I use a wireless keyboard and have monitors, and I'm just on my laptop by myself, so I'm not used to this keyboard. This is going to have a user ID, which is an integer, and a role ID, which is also an integer. There we go. Insert into roles. Let's say name, values. Let's say they can see the dashboard on the page, right? Let's have another role. We'll have a dashboard. We'll say the settings page. Let's say there's a settings page. Let's say there's a about page. Just continue with the web application theme. An about page. Let's say that there is a profile page. Let's say that there is a financial page. Okay, these are not very good names for roles, but you get the idea. Okay, so there we go. So we'll select star from roles. We'll see that there are users. Okay, users have different types. Okay, and there's also roles. Now, obviously, in the user roles table, users roles, there is nothing, okay? But let's just say that administrator wants to see all of them. So what we want to do is we insert into the user roles that an administrator has all of them. So insert into roles. Oops, users roles that the user ID, well, actually in this case we're tying users to roles, not user types, excuse me. So the user, let's say user Mike Smith, he's an administrator and he also has role 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And then let's say the normal users, like say Terry Holden, he's a normal user, but let's say he has access to the dashboard and the about page. So he would be user 2 has access to 1. User 2 also has access to the third page. And let's say the other user, John Anderson, up here, he has access to the settings page and the about page. So he is user number, actually this is not user number 2, this is user number 6, because remember we inserted users earlier and removed them. So our anchor main got messed up. He has 1, and he has 7 access to the second page. Okay. Now user 8, who's Alex Mark, he is a, what is he? He's a manager, so he's going to have access to the dashboard and also the financial information. 8 and 5. So there we go. Oh, what did I do here? Users roles. Oh, values. There we go. Select star from users roles. You'll see. Well, now we have user roles for each one. Now the question, a little bit here that might be confusing is these numbers. What exactly do they mean? So obviously the user ID ties to what user up here, and the role ID ties to what role we have. So we have the data, but it might be confusing how you'd select on this. So one of the ways you might do this is you would say, okay, select role ID from users roles where user ID is equal to 1. That's going to give you all the roles that the user 1 has. See how that works? So you can create relationships between tables and select data on them. So like let's just say, for example, on the initial load of the application, you want to enable pages based on the user roles. So you can loop through, well, that wouldn't be the most efficient way, but you could loop through this array that's returned in the application and enable those pages as it goes. So there we go. So in this video, we've looked at table relationships, a little bit of how the power of the select statement, and also how to create many-to-many tables, which are very useful. Now, and also a one-to-many, where we have a single table of user types up here, and those are tied to one of these may be tied to many users. So like in this case, for example, we have a user and it's tied to 2 users. It's one to many. Okay, well, I hope that was useful. I hope those things that made sense. If you have any questions, please post below. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, and I'll see you next video. Thanks.